More like slice and dice, bub. He tries to chop stuff, but sometimes, with 3 claws on each hand, it just turns into a dice fest. Directors as being kindergarten teachers because we're all just a bunch of idiots making stupid noises and trying to make each other laugh. I didn't know that I had a unique voice until my agent told me.
You're watching convention coverage.
Now I live in Hawaii, fulfilling a lifelong dream, so even at my age, you can have new dreams, you guys. Just in case you don't know anything about me, I've been doing this for probably close to 35 years now. I started in anime. I'm still doing anime. I love the art form. I know that you guys do too, and I'm really glad that it's still alive and well. I was lucky enough to be part of Toonami back in the early days, right after, thank you. Sonny Strait, who is also here, was the original Tom from Toonami. So if you get a chance, please make sure you go give him some love. He is the OG Tom. But I took over at Tom 2 once the big blob ate him, and I've been feeling bad about that ever since and apologizing to him for years. But after 20-something years, Toonami is still on the air. We're on tonight, only Toonami on Adult Swim. So. And Toonami is largely responsible for bringing anime to English-speaking audiences all over the world. So thank you guys for being part of our journey too, and for continuing to support Toonami and bringing new anime and action cartoons to the world. So I'm just going to open this up to you guys, and I want to hear your questions, and I'll answer as best as I possibly can.
Hello. My favorite role of yours is Starscream from Transformers Prime.
You have excellent taste. Thank you.
Yes. So you worked with a lot of big names on that show, like Frank Welker and Peter Cullen. How was it feeling like to work with these guys?
Humbling. Well, starting with Frank Welker, I've been a fan of his since I knew what voice actors were. And Frank, in case you don't know who Frank Welker is, he was the voice behind most of the creatures in every Disney film you've ever seen. Scooby-Doo, Freddy, he's done a bazillion things. And so just to breathe the same air as Frank is an incredible honor. Peter Cullen was there in the early days of Toonami also. He was one of the main announcers of Toonami, and also the voice of Eeyore and Optimus Prime. And to be in their presence in that room was nothing short of humbling, literally. And it was a group of really good actors in that room. It was an amazing cast. And all of us were astonished at the brilliance of those two. Sometimes they would go into like a vaudeville routine between the two of them doing impressions and stuff, and the whole room would shut down. And if you guys have ever been in a recording session where there are studio executives in the back, time is money. And if people are talking and fooling around, they're going to get really angry. Nobody did when those guys spoke. The whole room shut down and everybody's going like this. Oh, do more, do more, do more. So phenomenal experience just being in the presence of those guys and working alongside them. And just one other quick note about Peter Cullen. If you've never seen what he looks like, he looks like a traditional Hollywood gentleman, like a film Hollywood gentleman. Sort of slight of build, very lean, Hollywood pencil mustache, very well put together, always wore a suit to sessions or dressed very nicely. Very soft-spoken, would shake your hand like this when he's greeting you. Smoked a lot of cigarettes, would come up to the microphone and getting ready to speak. And he'd, say hello to everybody very quietly and then clear his throat. And all of a sudden, are we ready? Okay. Transform and roll out. And you could feel the room flex when he did that. It was like the walls were flexing and everybody in the room turned into an 8-year-old fangirl. And we were all just going, oh my God, it's Optimus Prime. So he lives and breathes that character as Frank does with every character he does. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you for answering my question. Thank you.
You still have to call me Lord, though.
Yes, Lord Starscream.
Thank you. Excellent. All hail Starscream.
The question is, does Wolverine chop onions with his claws?
More like slice and dice, bub. He tries to chop stuff, but sometimes, with 3 claws on each hand, it just turns into a dice fest. So
Marvelous.
It's not clean and easy. It's dirty and down. So,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
My life is even more complete now than it was yesterday.
Sweet. Thanks, bub.
See you, Spike.
Just so you know, it hurts every time the claws come out. Every single time. But the healing factor is still working, so fortunately. Vitamin E.
I have a rare opportunity to present you with this question because Tom Kenny happens to be here. My question is, who does the better Starscream?
There is no better. There's just different. I'm a gigantic Tom Kenny fan. So I loved his version of Starscream. I thought it was hilarious and completely different. And it's apples and oranges, I think. So, Chris Latta was the OG for Starscream. But a lot of people have played Starscream throughout the years, and I think most have done a great job. Charlie Adler did a great Starscream, too, for the movies. So, I wouldn't say either one is better necessarily, just different.
Understandable.
Yeah,
and I
Starscream
appreciate
has
it.
many colors.
Obviously. Thank you so much.
Thank
See
you.
you, Space Cowboy.
See you.
Do you have any favorite memories or scenes working on Big O?
No particular scenes. The only thing that I remember really is I was working with a guy named Kevin Seymour at the time, who was one of the forefathers of anime and in dubbed anime. He's no longer with us. He's out there somewhere in the ether. But Kevin was just an amazing director, and I remember finessing things on that show. That was one of the first shows where we really had to work with the lip sync to make it work, because sometimes it was different. And so, he would say, "Big O, showtime!" most of the time. But sometimes it wouldn't match the lip flaps. So we had to come up with other stuff. And so Kevin would just come up with "Big O" and actions, things like that. So that was a really interesting experience for me, and they're very subtle things that we were doing, but it made it flow, it made it work, and it made it sound like it was supposed to be that way. And that's not an easy trick. So that's probably my fondest memory of that, was working with Kevin and learning that process of how to adjust on the fly in the room, even if you have a script that's written a certain way.
Thank you for sharing, Steve.
Thank you. And if you haven't seen Big O, check it out. It's like Batman with giant robots. It's awesome. Yeah.
With how Cowboy Bebop has become a classic to many people over many years it's been around, and with how long ago that show came out, how has it impacted you in general?
Bebop has affected me in every area of my life. It led to Toonami. It led to many, many things later on. I found out later on, after we recorded Legend of Korra, we finished that season, and the creators, Mike and Brian, came out to me afterwards, and they said, "By the way, we're big fans of Cowboy Bebop." I had no idea.
Wow.
Cowboy Bebop was one of the things that led to my relationship with Logic, the hip-hop artist. He was a big fan growing up in Maryland. Yeah. Let's give it up for Logic. Woo! Who, by the way, is going to start doing conventions now. Amazing. Yeah, we might do some together. I hope so. And also the lady who was our voice director and the voice actor for Julia is now my wife in real life, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. Yeah. So Cowboy Bebop has an impact in my life every day, and has for more than 25 years now.
Yeah.
So thank you for caring.
And I will say, honestly, I binged the series before coming here in preparation.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So, see ya, Space Cowboy.
All right. Bang.
Thank you for Cowboy Bebop. What is your, what's either your favorite episode or the episode that emotionally impacted you?
Ooh, boy. Favorite, I think, of all of them really was the movie. Just because it had sort of all the elements of the best episodes, I think, and a really good story, and the music was amazing. So the movie probably hit me hardest, and that was also, by that time I had finished the series, and I felt a lot more confident with the character. So just personally and professionally, I felt more comfortable in that room. Individual episodes, I loved Mushroom Samba just because it's so crazy. Toys in the Attic also. Love Toys in the Attic too. Pierrot Le Fou was incredible.
I love that one.
One of the most terrifying villains of all time. Yeah, and by the way, that was that clown was played by Kevin Seymour, the guy that I was talking about before, who was our
Really?
director on Big O. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah, Kevin just dipped in with voice work every now and then, and he was just brilliant. It was this terrifying character.
I don't know, in Call of Duty specifically, a lot of the lines that kind of bicker between Dempsey, Takio, Richtofen, and Nikolai, were like all of those scripted? Like,
Most of that was scripted. Yeah, that
I would like to believe that
the
they
guy
really
who wrote a lot of that stuff, Craig McCracken, I think that was his last name. God, if I got that wrong, please forgive me. But he's hilarious. Scottish guy who would drink all night and write these scripts and just laugh all night to himself.
I love that
And he'd
idea.
come
Oh
in
my
just
God.
hungover. All right, so I think we're gonna have him say we're gonna splatter meat sacks and stick it in Richthofen's face, and he'd just come up with this stuff, and it was like, oh my God, this is just glorious.
Genius.
Every bit it was so good. It was just so good. They did let us play, and we got to improvise a little bit, but it was a team effort on that. It was definitely, we were all working together on that show.
Yeah, definitely, because it's just like, I would like to think a lot of things go through your head, like in the middle of, she was like, ooh, this would be funny if I said this.
Sometimes they do, and I'll let it out. If it comes up, I will let it out in the moment. I don't keep that stuff inside, because you never know. Some of those things turned out to be gems. Some of them turned out to be stinkers, but it could still make the room laugh and make the day more pleasant. So in that room particularly, we did everything we could to keep each other laughing the whole time.
As it should be,
Yes.
because it should be fun. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
What would you say is like one of your favorite moments or episodes from Star Wars Rebels?
Probably my favorite memory from that room was Dave Filoni, who is now directing Ahsoka. His big vision, I'm so happy for him that he's actually able to do that, would come into the room with us, and he would spend sometimes an hour out of our 4-hour session just kind of giving us the overarching vision that he had, including what is happening now in the Star Wars universe. He had all this stuff planned. He's been thinking about it for decades, probably, working with George Lucas. George Lucas mentored him. So one of my favorite memories was we were in the room getting ready to record, and we were talking about Meluruns, the fruit that was introduced into the Star Wars universe in Rebels. And we were trying to figure out, how to say it properly. And as we know, in Star Wars, many things are mispronounced or pronounced differently by different people in the universe. And so that was one thing Dave just, all right, let's see if we can get a good pronunciation for this. And he would have this whiteboard, and he'd write out Melurun, draw a picture of what it was going to look like. He goes, all right, so we're going to call it a Melurun or Melurun or Melurun. And so we actually spent time on the pronunciation of the word of a fruit. And that's the level of detail that we went into that show. And that's what made it so good. He cared that much about it. And all of us were fans, and if we weren't fans, we became fans. There were a couple of people on the show who really didn't know Star Wars before we started. And they became like hardcore fans once we were finished, because it was kind of what you did. We became that family. And to this day, we still text and email each other. We stay in touch all the time. The Star Wars family is real, and it's forever. So thank you very much for watching the show. May the Force and the Ashla be with you.
Thanks.
If you were to be any alliance in Star Wars, Sith, Jedi, or I'll even give Grey Jedi, what would you choose?
Well, at this point, just as an actor, it'd be fun to join the Sith. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, the Sith are just so interesting to me. I've probably played Sith before, but to do it in like a series kind of form would be pretty fun. To go really, really dark. That'd be amazing. Yeah, thank you though.
Yeah, thank you.
You got me thinking now. Nice.
If you could, what character would you play? Oh, not what character. What class would you want to play if you had an opportunity in CR?
Critical Role it intimidates me. They're some of my best friends in the world. I love those guys dearly. And many years ago, Matt actually asked me if I'd be interested in doing one of the episodes before they really got things going. Yeah. And I was just so intimidated. I had never played before, and these are people that I love and respect. And I thought, you guys just do it. You're good. So I'm not really sure. I'm still not very confident. I've only played a dwarf barbarian, and which is super fun because I was just drunk all the time. My character's name was Azure Chabs.
Perfect.
Yeah, so it was because I had a character in Dragon Age who used to call people Ogren, right? And there was the A word and Jabs is what he would call people. So that was my character's name. I can't say it in here with the kids, but yeah. So that was easy for me because I didn't have to know spell slots and that stuff. I'm really lazy, and I don't have time to really research it. If I was gonna be on Critical Role, I'd probably take something a little bit more ambitious. And I don't know. I'm not really sure. Maybe a Dragonborn or something kind of cool and fun with weird powers. But yeah, it still intimidates me a little bit.
Hopefully you have the courage. It'll be a joy to watch.
I would love that, and I love those guys so dearly. But I live in Hawaii now too, so it'd be really hard for me to do their show because it's done in Los Angeles.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so
But
much.
thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Big fan of Logic.
Oh,
and,
nice.
You know, much to my surprise and delight when, wow, such a big band. I forgot the name of the album. The Incredible True Story.
Incredible
When
True
that
Story.
came out,
Yep.
my mind was blown that you were part of it. And,
Me too.
my question is just how was that working, you know, with Logic and getting to be a part of the album? Like, did you have any like creative influence or anything like that in it? You know, just kind of the
cool.
whole shebang.
Well, for those of you who don't know, I've worked with Logic, the hip hop guy, for several albums and several music videos now. He's become a very close friend of mine. I call him my little brother. He contacted me when he was about to release Under Pressure. He had his first big deal with Def Jam Records, and he realized that he could basically invite anybody he wanted to work on his albums. And Cowboy Bebop and video games and stuff were a big part of his life growing up in Maryland. It was the stuff that kind of helped him get through the rough times. Yeah. And so he called my agent and asked if I'd be interested in doing this sci-fi oriented album thing that he had an idea for. And I said, what does a 25-year-old hip-hop artist want with my old butt? And she said, just call him. He's a nice kid. He just moved near you, and he just wants to meet for lunch and talk. And I said, all right, fine. So we met and had a pastrami sandwich right down the street. He ended up renting a house right down the street from where I was living. It just happened to be convenient. And we met for a sandwich, and the first thing he said to me, he goes, okay, he goes, I know it's weird for a hip-hop guy to say this. He goes, but I opened all my shows talking about peace, love, and positivity. And I went, oh, that's different for hip-hop. Okay, I don't know what you want out of me, but the answer is yes. So he had me right there. And I loved his energy. He was just amazing. He was just an amazing human being, just all heart, everything right out there on the table. We became instant friends. He brought me back to his place, and he showed me his office, and he already had, I think, Akira was being projected on the wall. I was stepping over video game controls, and there was Bebop and all sorts of other anime things on his shelf.
Sounds like my office.
Yeah, and I thought, all right, I'm making the right choice here. This is cool. This is my people. And so he said, all right, so I'm about to do this. I'm on this tour. I'm about to start this tour for Under Pressure. I want you to come to the shows. And we're going to do this. I have this idea for an album called The Incredible True Story. And I'd love to do this sci-fi vignette with you and one of my main instrumentalists who is going to play this other character. And so I said, well, I don't know what this is, but yes. Okay, fine. Yes. And so the next day, he stayed up all night that night, and he wrote the whole script for the album.
That's cool.
And then he called me the next morning and goes, all right, I'm ready. Can we record it now? And I went, oh my God, this is really happening. Okay. And so I had a home studio. So I brought Kevin, who plays Kai, and he brought his engineer, Bobby, also named Bobby, over to my little home studio. I was working out of a closet at the time, and I shoved Kevin in there with me. And it's room sort of comfortable for one, super cramped for two. Yeah. And I just said, are you uncomfortable doing this? And he goes, yeah. And I said, good. And so we were squished in there. We were sweating. And all the words really came out of Bobby. We finessed it a little bit and just made it a little more natural for us. But it was a little collaborative effort there. But it's all out of his brain. I mean, that guy's a genius.
He's amazing, yeah.
What was your most, what role did you play that got you the most emotional during or after it? What tugged at your heartstrings the most, and why?
There've been so many. Oh my God. Well, Amon was one of them because I didn't know what was going to happen. They purposely didn't tell me, which happens on a lot of shows, actually. They didn't tell us how Star Wars Rebels was going to end. They didn't tell us how Cowboy Bebop was going to end. So each one of those characters, it was like, oh my God, no! It's what? No! It hurt. It physically hurt. Bebop was the first experience that I had where I was really attached to a character and I didn't know how it ended. Not that anything terrible happened if you haven't seen it yet, but it wasn't what I was expecting. That's all I can say. And that one, it still rings. I mean, when people say you're going to carry that weight, it's like, oh, ow, instant feels. Zabuza from Naruto was like that too, even though it was a much shorter span of time working with that character. But at his end in the series, that one hit me pretty hard too, surprisingly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Like I said, thank you for making my childhood, and shout out to you for living in Hawaii. I used to live there myself.
Nice.
It's a great island. It's a great place.
Thank you. Yes, it is. It's beautiful.
How was it like working with Kevin Conroy in audio games?
Oh, Kevin Conroy is my Batman. Always will be my Batman.
The Batman.
He's amazing. What a sweet man. Yeah, I got to know him pretty well. Thank you.
When you had to, or when voicing the Tom from Toonami, and the skits, I guess, involving Tom's like own like little side story, did you expect to like, you know, do that with the character, or did it surprise you, you know,
When I began in Toonami, my very first thing was, I think it was Intruder. You guys would know better than I do. When Tom 2 finally first showed up, after Tom 1, Sonny Straight's character got eaten, and Tom 2 showed up, that was the first thing I ever did for Toonami. So my very first experience were these little vignette kind of things. So I thought that's what Toonami was. And once we started announcing and I realized that was more of the gig, I was, you know, the announcer, coming up next, Dragon Ball Z on Toonami, you know, that kind of thing.
I love that.
That was fun. I love doing that, but those little interstitial things were the bomb. And also doing the inspirational speeches, like fall down 7 times, get up 8. Those are the things that just gave us life.
Yeah.
So they had the whole plan kind of laid out and they explained it to me. But really my very first experience was that, so it wasn't a surprise.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How many years ago you managed to get into the Guinness Book of World Records? Do you know how many roles you had back then, or how many roles you've done up until now?
Well, the Guinness World Record was for the most voices in video games. As far as I know, I still hold that record. It's been since 2012. Back then, it was like 360 something. Now it's probably close to 500 video games. It's a quantity record, not a quality record. And then, what was that? Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. But since then, I apparently I hold like 4 records now. There's one for voicing Wolverine the most times and other things. Gwen knows. Yeah, it's weird. I only have the one plaque. They gave me the one plaque for it, and I have that on my wall. It's pretty cool. Or I will. I just moved. I haven't put it back up yet. By the way, guys, that is Gwendolyn King. I just want to give her a shout out. She comes with me to all of the cons. We've been doing cons together for many, many years, and she's also one of my closest, dearest friends and partners in BloomVoxStudios.com. And so if you guys are part of our school or part of our Facebook community, you've seen Gwen pop in and out. She's on the socials all the time too. And just one of the dearest people in my life. So please give her some love today if you come to the table.
Is there a lesser known work of yours that you wish got more attention?
Oh, interesting. Actually, there is. There's an audiobook. I don't do audiobooks generally, but I did this one audiobook called Kashmir the Flying Camel. It's Kazmir. It was narrated by Bryan Cranston. Colleen O'Shaughnessy did all the female parts. I did all the male parts in it. And it was really fun. It's this journey, this story about a prince who gets locked in this mirror that's broken, goes to 5 different universes, basically. And it's this incredible tale, fully produced. And we thought it was going to become a series or a movie or something. Hopefully someday it still will. Mm-hmm. But nobody's heard of this thing. And it's so good. And one of the most fun things about that is that we really got to just do anything we wanted with the characters. And one of these skies, it's the 5 skies, I think they said they visited in this story. This one land was made up of all of the ills of humankind, the fears, the anger, the hate, and it manifested in an entire landscape made out of poop, basically. It's like feces. So I got to create a voice for that. Oh. And you know, when you're tasked with creating the voice for a landscape of human feces, lots of things go through the mind. But it was super fun, and we got to do stuff like that throughout the entire show. So if you get a chance, look it up. Cashmere the Flying Camel. It's pretty amazing.
Obligatory, you were my childhood, Toonami, all of that. Running home from school, so thank you for your career and everything you mean to us. So.
Please apologize to your parents for me.
All right, yeah, I'll
Okay.
call my mom
Probably
right
got you in a
after
lot of
this.
trouble. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
All right.
So with 35 years in your career, how do you deal with, say, creative burnout or maybe like creative block?
I fortunately, knock on Formica, I don't suffer that. I read other people's words. That's why the writer's strike is so important, because other people write those words for me. I don't have to worry about getting a block. In terms of creating characters from what's on the page, that's sort of an automatic response for me. It has been since I was a little kid. And if you can sort of equate it to reading comic books or manga or whatever you love to read, the voices pop into your head, right? Even if you're not familiar with those characters. It's always been that way for me. I'm just able to translate it out through my mouth. And I can't stop that process no matter what. So even if I'm doing an audition where they give me some direction, some specific direction on a character, there's always going to be something that automatically pops up in my head. And I'm going to make sure that I give that in the audition too. So that's something that I recommend to my students, is that, when at bloomvoxstudios.com, by the way, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But one thing that I always recommend to my students is trust your gut, trust the organic instinct that you guys are born with. And even if it's not on the page necessarily and you're in the audition process, let that out, because that's the thing that's going to make you unique and set you apart from everybody else. And I don't know how to turn that tap off. So after 35 years, I think I'm in the right business because I still love doing this every single day.
And so when it comes to something like sillier episodes, like the episode where a group of eco-terrorists in Cowboy Bebop wants to turn everyone into monkeys, or the baseball episode from Samurai Champloo, how do you approach that as a voice actor?
With enthusiasm of a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
The stupider it is, the more I love it. Honestly, that for me is an escape. I love drama. I love anything that has a really good storyline. But if we get to be ridiculous, that's my very favorite thing to do. There was a show called GTO. I don't know if you remember that one. Great teacher Onizuka, and it was the most ridiculous thing I ever worked on. And we didn't have a proper script for that show. So I was writing on the fly, hence the experience from Big O really helped me to be able to do that. I had to rewrite every line and basically improvise the entire show. And it was ridiculous, stupid, funny, and one of the most joyful things I've ever done in my life. So yeah, don't forget to play, guys. It's really important. That's rule number 1 at bloomvoxstudios.com. Yes.
What I'm curious about is, how do you do a blooper when you're reading a script, and also in the blooper, it seems like the voice actor is like playing off of somebody else who's already recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you have fun in improv?
I can't help it. It's an automatic response. I always talk about directors as being kindergarten teachers, because we're all just a bunch of idiots making stupid noises and trying to make each other laugh. That comes much more naturally than doing the actual work. The hard part is focusing and doing it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, though.
Yeah.
It's an absolute joy to do that stuff.
You have a pretty good range, but sort of on the internet, you're known for like the Steve Blum voice. So sort of like, how do you feel kind of about like, like having the economy, like having a really wide range between like Starscream and all of that, but then like sort of like being known for like a specific kind of voice?
Well, when you're born with this voice, it can tend to pigeonhole you. So, you have to find work that's appropriate for what you got. You're born with an instrument, you work with the instrument. It's like playing a piccolo and trying to do a trombone. You can't really necessarily do everything, but you got to do what you can with what you got.
I don't know the answer to that question. It was funny. I didn't know that I had a unique voice until my agent told me. Honestly, back at Arlene Thornton and Associates, my agency that I've been with for years and years, the agents there told me that I had something unique in my voice, where it was deep, but it was also youthful. And it's an interesting combination, and I can add the grit in it, and I can take the grit out. I didn't think any of that really made any difference. I hated the sound of my own voice when I first heard it. So it took me quite a while to just get used to it and be able to manipulate it. And like we say, at bloomboxstudios.com. I'm going to be doing this all day, forgive me. I started teaching accidentally, and I can tell you guys about that later if you're interested. But one of the biggest issues for a lot of people who are coming up as voice actors is they don't like the sound of their own voice. A lot of us don't. And you have to get used to it. And once I got used to it and not necessarily fell in love with it, but became friends with my voice, I was able to act using that. The first time I actually used my original, my natural voice was really Cowboy Bebop in the entirety of the show. Most of the time I was doing big creatures or, disgusting sounding things or doing deaths as soldiers, that sort of stuff. To speak in my own voice and to act in my own voice was actually a really vulnerable place for me. So I had to get used to that and make friends with it. And that was a long process, which you can learn how to do at bloomboxstudios.com. Thank you for that, though.
I was going to ask because I'm somebody who gets really attached to characters. This is my little scrunkly, my scrimblo bimblo. And I was wondering if voice actors also feel the same way to roles that they play, or if it's just another paycheck to you.
Oh, it's never been just a paycheck to me. I did this for fun before I knew it could be a career. So I get very attached to the characters. At the end of Cowboy Bebop, I cried. At the end of Legend of Korra, I cried. At the end of Star Wars Rebels, I cried. When Wolverine and the X-Men didn't get picked up, I cried. Call of Duty, at the end of Call of Duty, have you seen the video with the four of us there for Black Ops? Tom Kane started crying, I cried. So yeah, they're very near and dear to my heart. I love every character that I ever play, even if they only have a 30-second lifespan. So I mourn every stormtrooper that dies, and I've played like a third of them in the Star Wars universe. So no, I take it very personally. I don't necessarily carry it with me all the time, but I definitely take it very personally, and I love these characters as though they're my children. So when people come and ask me what my favorite character is, I have no answer because I love them all. And if I favor one over the others, the rest of them fight in here, and that could be really bad. Thank you for that, though.
When you were working on Star Wars Rebels,
yes.
Did Kevin Conroy's soundtrack inform any of your performances?
Ooh, once I heard it, yeah. In the beginning, we didn't know what the music was going to be. But after we screened the first couple of episodes, they played some of the music for us, and we actually got to go up to Skywalker Sound and the studios. And Dave Filoni was spotting music at the studio, and he actually let us sit in on one of the sessions listening to Kevin's music. It was stunningly beautiful, amazing artist. And he's just getting better and better. In Ahsoka, his music is sick. It's so great. It was like being in the presence of John Williams, honestly. He's that good. So yeah, thank you for saying that. Nobody ever gives him credit. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's like at the panels, but...
Yeah, he's so great. He's so great. Thank you for that. Well, thank you guys for coming out early on a Saturday morning.